Picture this. It's August 23, 1939. The world holds its breath as two sworn enemies, Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia, shake hands in Moscow. What the public saw was shocking enough, but what they signed in secret would carve up half of Europe and trigger the bloodiest war in human history. The champagne glasses clinked in Stalin's Kremlin that night, but hidden beneath the public ceremony lay a document so explosive that its very existence would be denied for decades. This wasn't just diplomacy. This was a devil's bargain that would doom millions. I'm about to reveal the untold story of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and trust me, what you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about World War II. The history books got it wrong, and the truth is far more sinister. Most people think Hitler simply invaded Poland on a whim. They're dead wrong. Every move was calculated, every border predetermined by a secret protocol that divided Eastern Europe like pieces on a chessboard. And the most chilling part, both dictators knew exactly what they were unleashing. Let me take you back to that fateful August evening. Foreign Minister Joachim von Ribbentrop stepped off his plane in Moscow, carrying in his briefcase documents that would reshape the map of Europe forever. Across the table sat Vyacheslav Molotov, Stalin's ruthless diplomat, ready to sign away the fate of nations. The public pact was already controversial enough, a non-aggression treaty between ideological enemies that stunned the world. But as the photographers left and the doors closed, out came the real agreement. The secret additional protocol that would never see daylight, at least not for another 50 years. In the event of a territorial and political rearrangement in the areas belonging to the Baltic states Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, the northern boundary of Lithuania shall represent the boundary of the spheres. These innocent-sounding words were actually a death warrant for millions. What happened next reads like a thriller, except it was horrifyingly real. According to the agreement, Russia would have control over Latvia, Estonia, and Finland, while Germany would gain control over Lithuania and Danzig. Poland, they carved it up like a Thanksgiving turkey, each dictator claiming his piece. But here's where it gets truly diabolical. Both Hitler and Stalin knew this wasn't just about territories. This was about human lives, about entire populations that would be uprooted, enslaved, or worse. The protocol didn't just divide land, it divided people's destinies. 9 days later, Germany invaded Poland. But here's what your history teacher never told you. Germany was thus able to invade Poland on September 1, 1939. Without fear of Soviet intervention, in accordance with secret provisions of the Pact, Poland was partitioned between Germany and the Soviet Union. Imagine being a Polish family in September 1939, watching German tanks roll in from the west. You think maybe you can flee east to safety, only to discover Soviet forces waiting with open arms to complete your nightmare. That wasn't coincidence. That was coordination. The footage from that time still gives me chills. German and Soviet soldiers, supposed mortal enemies, shaking hands on Polish soil, while Polish cities burned around them. They weren't just allies, they were co-conspirators in one of history's greatest betrayals. But Stalin wasn't done. Finland, Estonia, Latvia, all marked for Soviet influence in that secret document. When Finland refused to play ball, Stalin launched the Winter War. The Finns fought like lions, but the writing was already on the wall, signed in Moscow months earlier. What makes this story even more incredible is how both sides pretended to be surprised by each other's actions. Hitler would later claim he was forced to invade the Soviet Union because Stalin was untrustworthy. Stalin, meanwhile, acted shocked when Germany turned on him in 1941, yet both had the secret protocol sitting in their safes. Proof of their original conspiracy. The human cost of this deception is staggering. Historians estimate that the secret provisions of the pact directly led to the deaths of over 20 million people in Eastern Europe alone. These weren't just statistics, these were farmers, teachers, children, who paid the price for two tyrants' ambitions. I've spoken to survivors, elderly men and women, who lived through those dark days. Maria, a 95-year-old from Estonia, told me how Soviet soldiers arrived at her village in 1940, deportation lists already prepared. They knew exactly who to take. She whispered, tears in her eyes. The lists had been written in Moscow a year earlier. That's the true horror of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. It wasn't just an agreement between nations, it was a premeditated plan for human suffering. Every deportation, every execution, every family torn apart had been coldly calculated in those secret protocols. The economic implications were equally sinister. While publicly maintaining neutrality, Stalin was secretly supplying Hitler with crucial raw materials for the Nazi war machine. Oil, grain, minerals, all flowing from the Soviet Union to Germany while Hitler conquered Western Europe. Talk about playing both sides. What's even more disturbing is how both regimes used the pact's secrecy to manipulate their own people. German citizens were told they were fighting Western capitalism and Jewish conspiracies, while Soviet citizens were told they were protecting socialism from fascist aggression. Neither side knew their leaders had been in bed together from the start. The intelligence communities of both nations were in on the secret too. NKVD and Gestapo officers met regularly to coordinate their activities in occupied territories. They shared information about resistance movements, traded prisoners, and even jointly planned propaganda campaigns. It was cooperation between secret police forces that would make Orwell's worst nightmares seem tame. When Hitler finally broke the pact and launched Operation Barbarossa in 1941, Stalin's reaction tells us everything about how deep this conspiracy went. He didn't just feel betrayed militarily, he felt personally deceived by someone he'd considered a partner in crime. For 3 days, Stalin locked himself in his dacha, unable to process that his fellow dictator had outsmarted him. But here's what really gets me. The world almost found out about the secret protocols much earlier. In 1940, a German diplomat attempted to defect to Britain with copies of the secret documents. He was assassinated before reaching London, and his briefcase disappeared forever. How different might history have been if those documents had seen the light? The cover-up lasted for decades. Even after the war, both Soviet and Western archives kept the full truth hidden. It wasn't until 1989, 50 years later, that Gorbachev finally acknowledged the secret protocol's existence. 50 years of denial, 50 years of lies, all to protect the reputation of the heroic Soviet Union that had supposedly fought fascism from day one. Think about the implications for today's world. When we see authoritarian leaders making surprising alliances or sudden policy reversals, we have to ask, what secret agreements are being signed behind closed doors? What protocols are being hidden from public view? The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact teaches us that the most dangerous deals are often the ones we never hear about. The psychological profiles of both Stalin and Hitler reveal men who thrived on secrecy and deception. They didn't just see treaties as diplomatic tools, they saw them as weapons of manipulation. Every clause was calculated to maximize their power while minimizing their accountability to their own people. What strikes me most about researching this story is how many warning signs were ignored. Western intelligence services had hints about secret negotiations, but dismissed them as too incredible to be true. Sometimes the truth is so shocking that even intelligence professionals refuse to believe it. The pact also reveals how quickly ideological enemies can become practical allies when it serves their interests. Hitler and Stalin supposedly represented opposite worldviews, yet they found common ground in their hunger for power and their willingness to sacrifice human lives for territorial gains. I want you to imagine sitting in that Moscow room in August 1939, watching two of history's most evil men casually deciding the fate of millions. The banality of evil has never been more apparent than in those secret protocol negotiations, where genocide was planned with the same attention to detail as a business merger. The documentary evidence that survived tells an even darker story than we initially realized. Internal memos from both German and Soviet archives reveal that both sides anticipated the human cost of their secret arrangements. They knew people would die, and they simply didn't care as long as their spheres of influence remained intact. What lessons can we draw from this historical betrayal? First, that public diplomacy often bears no resemblance to private agreements between authoritarian leaders. Second, that the most dangerous international conspiracies are those hidden from democratic oversight. And third, that when dictators shake hands, it's usually over someone else's grave. The Molotov Pact wasn't just a diplomatic agreement, it was a blueprint for organized destruction that shaped our world in ways we're still discovering. Every time you see a map of Eastern Europe, remember that those borders were first drawn in blood by two men who met in secret and decided that human lives were acceptable collateral damage. As we face new international challenges today, the story of this secret pact serves as a chilling reminder. The most dangerous agreements are the ones the public never sees, and the highest price is always paid by those who had no voice in their creation. What do you think about this hidden chapter of history? Did it change your perspective on World War II? Have you discovered other secret agreements that shaped major historical events? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below, and let's discuss how secret diplomacy continues to influence our world today. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more untold stories that challenge everything you thought you knew about history. Hit that notification bell because next week, I'm revealing another explosive secret that world leaders have kept hidden for decades. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Tell us which country or city you're watching from. See you in the next video. Bye.